Several members, I think Mr. Sia Kian Peng, Ms. Denise Pua, worry that we are making too many changes at the same time. Foreign worker adjustments, progressive wages, CPF, carbon tax, etc. And that all these will add to cost pressures for businesses at a time when demand is still weak for certain segments of the economy. I understand these concerns, and that is why we are continuing to provide significant support to the harder hit sectors, including through the Small Business Recovery Grant. And we are also phasing in the new requirements. For example, the carbon tax increase will be staggered over 3 phases, from 2024 to 2030. Changes to SPA's minimum qualifying salary will be implemented over 3 steps from this year to 2025. But what we are doing is to be upfront, clear, and transparent to businesses. We are announcing these moves well ahead of time so that businesses can plan ahead and make the necessary adjustments. And even as we make these policy moves over the coming years, we continue to pay very close attention to our SMEs, something which many members spoke about. We will continue to help our SMEs upgrade and maintain a vibrant SME sector in Singapore. This includes our heartland enterprises, as mentioned by Mr. Melvin Yong. In fact, our support and grant schemes for companies are designed to benefit SMEs the most. Prior to COVID-19, smaller firms were receiving about 12 times more grants from the government on a grant per dollar of revenue basis compared to larger firms. 12 times more grants from the government on a grant per dollar of revenue basis. And throughout the past 2 years, SMEs continue to receive significant help through schemes like the Job Support Scheme, rental relief, and financing schemes. And in this budget, 80% of the payouts from the new and enhanced schemes will flow to SMEs, 80. Of course, not every SME will get the same support, and that's because our strategy favors SMEs which are actively training their workers and increasing their productivity. If the SME is prepared to make the effort, it will enjoy very generous co-funding. Under the Productivity Solutions Grant, or the PSG, firms that undertake productivity solutions this year will receive significant support. For a $10,000 productivity project, the government will pay up to $7,000. With the Skills Future Enterprise Credit, eligible firms can get additional funding for up to 90% of out-of-pocket expenses for their supported programs. And you can stack both schemes together. So if you do so, SMEs only need to pay as little as $300 for a $10,000 productivity project. I recognize that the operating environment in Singapore can be challenging for businesses. We are no longer competing based on being a low-cost business location. Where we can, the government will manage the pace of cost increases and make it easier to do business. For example, through Go Business licensing, we have streamlined the number of regulatory touch points for food business owners from 14 to 1. And this reduces the number of license applications that firms have to fill up and saves up to 14 days of turnaround time. Ms. Janet Ang and Mr. Edward Chia shared concerns from the business community on the availability of manpower. That's a key concern for many businesses, and I fully understand. The current shortage of work permit holders is partly due to our border restrictions. As we progressively open our borders, we are giving priority to bringing back workers that businesses urgently need, especially workers for the construction, marine, and process sectors. We should be able to clear the shortages within the next few months. At the same time, firms should continue to take full advantage of the various schemes that support job redesign and improve productivity to become more manpower efficient. In the near term, the government will also help to offset some of the cost increases. For example, we have the Progressive Wage Credit Scheme to help co-fund wage increases for low-wage workers. But we cannot offset wage and cost increases perpetually, as that will not be viable nor desirable. Keeping the cost of employing foreigners low will also mean depressing the wages of local workers over time. Our focus, therefore, is not to hold down labor costs indefinitely, but to support efforts by our firms to be more productive and innovative, so that they can be competitive and successful even as labor costs gradually increase. Another critical aspect of competitiveness is to stay open and connected to the world, something which many members like Ms. SMS Chee Hong Tat, Mr. Cheng Sing Yao, and Mr. Patrick Tay have emphasized. This is not just an option, this is essential, even existential for us. We must never let anti-foreigner sentiments take root here or give the impression that we are becoming more inward-looking. And I caution some in the House who have been shrill on this subject. Take a look at some of the articles that have appeared in the international media recently, wondering if Singapore is closing itself and Singaporeans are becoming less welcoming of foreigners. If global investors conclude that this is so, Singapore will become less attractive to them, and it will be ordinary Singaporeans who suffer the most. My colleague, Mr. Dr. Tan See Leng, the Minister for Manpower, had also sounded a similar warning yesterday. In this budget, we are adjusting some aspects of our foreign worker policies. This is not a sudden change in policy. We made our intentions very clear in the Economic Strategies Committee report in 2010. And since then, we have been making careful, calibrated adjustments to our foreign worker policies. We recognize that tightening too quickly will hurt our SMEs, but moving too slowly will lessen the incentive for firms to upgrade. So it's really about maintaining that careful balance. And the latest moves we've made in this budget will help to ensure that the workers coming in are of the right caliber and in areas where we need them, and further strengthen the complementarity of our local and foreign workforce. But I want to be very clear about one thing. We are not closing ourselves to the inflow of foreign workers and professionals. They are and will remain integral to our economy and our competitiveness. They are a valuable complement to our Singaporean core at all levels of the workforce. So we continue to welcome all who contribute to us having the strongest teams here to give Singaporeans, ourselves, the best chance of success amidst intense global competition. And we welcome those with the capabilities and the commitment who share our values and our way of life to stay on and help us build the next phase of our Singapore story. I also recognize that certain segments of the economy may need more help, and members have provided many useful suggestions in this debate. For example, Mr. Don Wee and Ms. Yeo Wan Ling spoke about self-employed persons who are vulnerable and in need of support. The government has rolled out several schemes to support self-employed persons through this difficult period. We've also set up the Advisory Committee on Platform Workers, which comprises multiple stakeholders, including our tripartite representatives. The committee is deliberating on ways to further strengthen protections for these gig workers and will give an update when they are ready.